And you're also seeing now, this is a weird one. I was watching this clip that I saw on YouTube of Tucker Carlson on Tim Pool's show talking about aliens. And he's talking about it from like almost like a religious perspective. He's like, I think what they're essentially saying is that there's like, he was talking about good and evil. See if you can find the clip. He's talking about good and evil, and he's talking about it in relationship to UFOs, and that they've always been here. So it's like, are you trying to say, like, what does he know? And can you say what you know? Like, why do you think this? And are you saying that, like, a lot of the talk of like angels and devils in the Bible and good and evil, that it actually manifests itself in physical form, and we don't know what it looks like because we haven't seen it, but when we do see it, we think it's a UFO, so we think it's from another planet, but it's really just evil or really just good. So it's angels and devils. Is that what you're saying? Because if that's what you're saying, boy, that's a fucking freaky argument, because that's one of the weirdest arguments about the UFO thing, is that we are essentially containers of souls, and that what this planet is for these beings is they mine souls here, and that they develop souls here, and that all of our motivations for existing and all of our ego and all of our ambition is really just a way to carry that soul as a vessel, and that
they then harvest.
Well, I don't know. I don't understand what the argument is. Like,
that
what
sounds
are they
like
getting
that
out
sounds
of
like
it?
what should have been the sequel to Matrix instead of what was.
Right,
that
or
would have been a better version.
That's how artificial intelligence is created. That's how life is created. Much how like a bee creates a bee colony, they create a bee hive. Inside the hive, the queen lays the larva. Everyone knows how to do it, and they all do it that way. Maybe the soul being in this biological vehicle and given this intelligence and this desire to achieve and to pursue technological innovations and all these different things that human beings do allows them to get to the point where we're at right now, where they create artificial intelligence. And what these UAPs and UFOs that are appearing in greater numbers and being reported by all these fighter jet pilots and all this, maybe what they're doing is they're witnessing the farmers who are coming by to watch their creation give birth to this thing, which is them.
Which would be AI.
AI, which is not artificial. The artificial is the wrong word. A new form of life. A life that is not based in biology and breeding through sperm and cells and eggs, but instead completely technological and able to self-reproduce and able to create its own version of itself that's far superior to the one that initially created it. And that it would constantly do that. And that's what the universe is filled with. That what we are, we're just this fucking caterpillar that's making a cocoon, and we don't even know what we're doing. And we're going to give birth to this butterfly. And that's what the whole human race is about. And that's the sinister aspect. That's what good and evil and all these different things playing off against each other is, that we need this constant competition. We're always searching for utopia, searching for that meadow we can retire in. But it's like this strife and this struggle is what makes us continue to push society further and further until this thing is born. Listen to what Tucker says.
It's my personal belief, based on a fair amount of evidence, that they're not aliens. They've always been here, and I do think it's spiritual. That's my view. So, and again, it's not provable, but based on the evidence, I think
I'm with you.
Absolutely. But if the U.S. government has in fact had direct contact with these beings, whatever they are, I've already told you what I think they are, and has entered into some sort of agreement with them, which is the claim of informed people, I would say. Whether they're right or wrong, I can't say conclusively. But if that is true, I mean, it's a very, very, very heavy thing.
Yeah. A lot of people say interdimensional beings.
Right. I want to ask, are angels and demons, or how would you describe these beings?
You know, these are, again, I'm getting into the realm of conjecture, so I just want to say that flat out.
Entity?
But one thing I know for a dead certain fact, having seen it, is that there is good and evil, that we're being acted upon at all times. And I think every person can feel that in himself. I mean, there are moments when you are moved to do things that are much better than you actually are, and that are also more evil and destructive than you actually are. You are subject to forces from outside yourself That is absolutely true. Now, we can argue about what they are, but every person in the room, if he's reflective, will tell you, yes, I know what you're talking about. And so there are forces that are not human, that do exist in a spiritual realm of some kind, that we cannot see, and that when you think about it, sort of make you think we live in an ant farm.
Yeah.
Being right? And that's just, that is real,
Yeah.
okay?
And there's
That might be what's going on.
Well, those are some patient freaking alien angels, because they waited around 10,000 years from discovering a wheel and domesticating the first plant to electricity.
Well, if you have artificial intelligence, and if you have a life form that's a million years more advanced than us, it's non-biological at that point, you have all the time in the world. And if you're
what is time at that? You start bending time.
And one of the primary theories about how life got started on Earth is panspermia, which is that amino acids and these various building blocks of life come in asteroids, and they slam into the Earth. And that somehow or another, over the course of millions and millions of years of chemical interactions, of billions of years, you have life, single cell, complex life, and then that life advances to the point where it creates a new version of life. And if that is just how it works everywhere, we say, oh my God, that takes so much time. But does it? Because think about how much time it takes to make a fucking planet. Think about how much time it takes for all that matter to coalesce and to gel up into this fucking ball. And then for the temperature to stabilize, because it has a moon around it that's, 1/4 the size of the planet itself. And everything is kind of stable, and it gets to the point where biological life can exist. And then it starts fucking making shit and make better and better and better. And then start arguing with shit about climate change and gender pronouns and all this stupid shit. While it's the real thing it's doing is forcing you to get that motherfucker online. Right. Get that new life form online. That's what you really do, stupid.
The thing that has always, and even Stephen Hawking talked about it. So you've got the Big Bang Theory, where you have essentially all this antimatter compressed upon itself until it explodes and creates matter.
Yeah.
And the hole in that argument is antimatter. There's no matter. There's nothing. And there was so much nothing that it compressed until there was something. And so the first thing that we base everything on defies the laws of physics. Like, how can nothing compress itself until it makes something? We could be off 0.0002% on our theories of life and how this universe was formed. And if that's wrong, we don't have any fucking idea where we are, what this is.
Oh, Jamie, speaking of UFOs, did you see Lou Elizondo, these photos that are supposedly of a real alien?
Oh, here we go.
Bro, it's so dumb. The photos look blurry. Of the photos of the dead alien, like, you can't even zoom in on that. You can't even fucking focus. Look at these. Yeah, that thing. Look at that. What is that? What's that? What is that? How about better pictures? This is crazy. These are the only pictures? Is this from the 40s? Like, what's this picture from? What is this?
Oh, people want to believe.
Bro, so bad. Me too. I'm like, maybe the bottom ones.
It was funny. Somebody asked me, Sean Donnelly and Dan St. Germain have a podcast now about alien encounters and all that kind of stuff. And
really?
And they both really believe it. And they were like, what would it take for you to believe, Jay? I was like, irrefutable evidence?
Yeah. I have to shake hands with an alien.
the one thing I've never seen, irrefutable evidence?
There's a lot of shenanigans going on for sure.
On the back of one of those photos.
Alien, it's 1993. Alien hybrid child born to a 15-year-old girl, subject of ET genetic experiment, under chin, neck, and upper torso view. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's under chin. And then what's the other photo?
It's the same. It's just the same. It's just one photo.
Wasn't there another one? It seems like there's two photos.
That's just with this particular one.
But at the top, yeah, the one on the bottom. What's that one on the bottom? The one on the bottom seems a little like turned to the side, right? Is that the eyeball supposedly?
Isn't it just one of those? What are
at?
those babies called that are born like that?
Oh, Harlequin babies?
Yeah.
It could be anything, man. I mean, it might not even be human. I mean, it might not even
alien.
be. Who fucking knows?
Do you think? I mean, like someone like Donald Trump can hold in the information, like
I don't think
about
they
his
tell him.
daily day.
I don't think they tell him. I don't think he cares.
But who can
He's
sit
playing golf?
But who can sit on that information if you know that? Wouldn't it be terrifying to almost that to play? someone who knows about aliens existing, you think also breaks off and plays golf and
Yes.
decides what they want to have for dinner tonight?
100%.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I think
It's like finding out vampires exist. It would change everything.
I think it's a fun way to have information that you don't give to the rest of the world. And if you're the head of a giant defense contracting agency that's been back engineering UFOs for the last 50 years, it'd be probably pretty cool to know some shit that other people don't know and not tell anybody and still go to brunch.
But how are you not so consumed that you go?
Because you're a
hey, you want to
psychopath.
start a new? Want to start a new Netflix series tonight? Like it just seems like you'd be. It's the same way I don't believe people have like speaking to the dead powers or psychic
Right.
powers. I'm like, you'd be. You know what I mean? It's never like, oh, what is that? Tell your loved one that you miss them terribly. They miss you terribly. I'm actually. You guys went to McDonald's. I'll treat myself to some. Like, how does your mind go anywhere else but like I'd speak to the dead? That would be
Right.
consuming.
Yeah,
Right.
I would never sleep.
It's supernatural.
all day talking to somebody about the War of 1776.
You just go nuts. It's just
there
not
was
real.
there was a
Can
video
you imagine
on.
you could just tune into any time and
Yeah.
talk to like some Civil War soldiers.
You don't have a fate. You don't go pick out a new pair of sneakers while that's going on. I need new sneakers. I think.
I got super high once. I think it was in the tank. And when I came out, I had this idea that alien life, if it wanted to communicate with us, would come up with a way, a type of language that everyone could understand. Like a language that got right into your brain. A language that instead of you having to interpret what the sounds mean and turn them into words, it's some new kind of technology that allow, like as they're making this sound, as they're putting out the signal, it's going straight into you. And you automatically understand it.
Yeah.
Without knowing what they're saying, without having actual. Bob said you guys should come to the spaceship. Instead of seeing, you know what it means without having hearing sound. Like you'll have to disassociate the idea of these sounds meaning these words. You'll just know what it means.
Yeah.
Oh, that movie.
Yeah.
Oh, that movie
Arrival.
was crazy.
Well, didn't they do it like visually?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was like time doesn't matter.
Right.
There's no sentence. It was all memes and like.
Right.
That
And it was like they would spray black ink into the sky, right? What did they
Right.
do for language? Let me see what it looked like again. Yeah, there it goes. They spray black ink and it makes like weird patterns, and that's how they would communicate.
Have you
but that
seen-
makes sense.
Yeah. Have you seen the trailer for Tenet? Is that what it's called? It
I've been
looks so
excited
crazy.
for the movie to come out for a while.
Yes.
So Matt, the lockdown fucked it up.
I think there's a guy named Ray Kurzweil,
Hmm.
and he's this brilliant guy who wants to live to be 1,000 years old, and he's got this series of patents that he's come up with. I mean, he's really like a legitimately genius guy, and I got a chance to interview him once a way back. But one of the things that we talked about was he was talking about downloading consciousness into a computer. And they think that there's going to come a point in time where you will be eternal because you're going to figure out a way to take whoever Alan Mikovsky is and put it in a computer and
Yeah.
download it. And your material body, your physical body, your biological body won't mean anything anymore. You're going to exist as you inside this computer,
Yeah.
inside this thing. I've always thought that that's probably what alien life is. What alien life is something that has gotten to the point where it doesn't need a physical form anymore. Like whatever consciousness is, they figured out a way to contain it in non-biological systems. So they take whatever you are when you're born, but then the thing is like, how does that thing replicate? What are they doing to make it? What are they doing? What are they doing to make sure the power stays on? Like, what are they doing? I think
Keto.
probably squats. I think life could be all kinds of shapes. I think life could be like there was some speculations these scientists were trying to figure out whether or not light could be a life form. Like there could be forms of life that are made entirely of light.
Well, everything's energy, right?
I don't know if everything's energy.
I don't know. I thought
I've
I'd
seen a
throw
lot of
that out
people
and
that
it
are
would
like-
make sense.
Just really lazy. I
But
don't
like
think
we're
they're
made
energy.
of energy, you know?
Yeah, we're made of energy. But what we think of as life, we think of as like a frog.
Yeah.
Or like an Alan Mikovsky
Something
or a
with
Jamie
a
Vernon.
pulse.
Yeah, but it's possible that life might be like I've thought about ideas. Like when you have an idea and then that idea gets in your head, like, man, I don't like that idea. And then you start working to fulfill that idea. You build a thing. Like maybe you have an idea like how to build a thing. And then you build a thing. Like that's a thing that like forced you to make it. It's like you had an idea that
Yeah.
jumped into your brain And then it's like, listen, bitch, you need to make a canoe. Like a canoe.
Yeah.
How would I make a canoe? You take a log, you
Yeah.
fucking hollow out the side, and you roll around inside of it. Just go down the river. And then all of a sudden, this idea that pops into your head, and you start doing all the work. Now you have a physical thing that literally allowed itself to be born by getting this idea that invades your consciousness and tricks you into making things.
Doesn't that make you think that everything's already kind of decided? Like, you know, you have free will and control, but to some extent, everything's kind of already, what's going to happen is going to happen.
That's not necessarily true. I think you do have free will, but I think you also have determinism. I think this is something that people have argued successfully, where you really have to take a step back and go, okay, what do I think about who a person is right now? Like if I meet a person and I meet this woman and she's all fucked up and she lies a lot and she likes to do drugs and she doesn't know what she's doing with her life and she cries. Like, oh, get your shit together, bitch. Is that what you think? Like, what do you think when you meet a person like that? Do you take into consideration, like, oh, this is a person who is the granddaughter of alcoholics, and it all boiled down to genetics and terrible. So all of her systems that came online when she was 2 and 5 and 6, they all came online during alcoholic households. And people were physically abusive, and you're hiding in the corner of your bedroom, and it was all chaos and
How do you know my life
drinking
story?
when you're 12. Like, when you get to that 35-year-old person and they've gone through this insane pattern without any intervention, nothing switches, how much of their life are they really responsible for?
Yeah.
It's a real question. It's like, who are you? You are the combination of all the things that have ever happened to you, your genetics, all the weird shit that you inherit from your parents. Like you inherit a lot of ideas, they think, even from your parents. Not just like learn from them, but actually inherit these ideas. And then you do the best with what you got.
Yeah.
And some people's got is fucking terrible.
Yeah. Do you think we're living in a simulation?
I'm too dumb
Same.
to take that into consideration, but I think it seems legitimately weird. It seems like it changes too much. Like reality itself changes too much.
Yeah.
And things come up that seem like if there was going to be a simulation, this is how it would go down. Like I remember when I first started reading about simulation theory was right around the time where Anthony Weiner got busted for sending pictures of his dick. I'm like, what are the odds?
Yeah.
Like that seems like
It's so on the nose.
seems like somebody would
so
really.
on the wiener.
If your name was Weiner, you'd avoid showing people your hog.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is
You'd
a terrible.
castrate yourself. No more wiener.
But if we're going to come up with one someday, obviously not you and me, but someone really smart is going to come up with a simulation, it's going to eventually get good enough where you can't tell that you're in a simulation.
That's what's fucked up.
That's what's fucked up. What's fucked up is if it isn't here, it's coming.
Yeah.
This took me a long time. Like, I had a conversation with this guy, Nick Bostrom, who's a brilliant guy who is a big proponent of this concept. And he was explaining it through like probability theory. And I was a little too dumb to understand what he was saying, but basically what
That's
he's
how
saying
I feel
is
listening to your podcast.
if it's possible that someday someone, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, someday we'll have a simulation. Like what are the odds that this is a simulation? It's more likely that this is a simulation than not.
Yeah. You just got to pray that whoever's doing the simulation is looking out for you.
The other possibility is that we know the simulation's coming. That's the other possibility, and that's why everybody's freaked out. Everybody's freaked out because even though it's not here, it's inevitable. If you follow the pattern of innovation, if you go from pioneers to people who live in cities to cell phones and internet and fucking Space Force, and you just keep going, eventually you get to a point where someone figures out how to make an artificial version of life, whether it's Ray Kurzweil's thing, where it downloads you into a computer, or whether it's the thing you sit and connect to.
Yeah.
Someone's going to come up with something.
Do you think we know that we're in the simulation when it happens,
Then
or
it
it
would
would
suck.
just like ease
Then it would
into
suck.
it?
You don't want that.
Yeah, no.
You want something where it's crazy.
Yeah.
And you don't even know you're in it. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, am I in the simulation?
Who knows?
That's the best simulation. The best simulation is you have no idea.
Oh,
You're locked completely into it. So that's where our problem lies. We don't know if that's actually going on right now. Like for Trump, if somebody brought Trump aside, like sat Trump aside and said, Mr. Trump, all of this seems highly unlikely, doesn't it? Well, here's why.
Yeah.
You are in a simulation. This simulation was started 78 years ago, and this is the pattern. It plays out. You're given a large amount of money to start your own businesses.
Yeah.
You're going to put your name on everything. You're going to be the best, the best,
Yeah.
the best, but you have crazy hair.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You just fucking spray it down. You're good. You have a few flaws in your life. People are mad at you, though, but you're going to be the best. You're going to have the best things, the biggest. You're going to have the business. Everything's going to be amazing. And then you come up to them and, like, you wake them up and you say, listen, this seems crazy. It seems crazy because it is. And you settled upon a very bizarre pattern in your simulation, and this is how it came out. And everyone else is mad at you, but they just don't understand. This wasn't your fault. You didn't mean to. But then you think of all the things that we counted before, like poverty, abuse, drug addict parents, all the different things that make a person who they are, right? Those are really kind of like factors in if you had a game. Like if you were playing some sort of a large-scale role-playing game, you're like, what is my character going to be like? Oh, your character's a barbarian. You're in the Matrix. That's what you're showing me.
Yeah, it's like you're just describing like when Morpheus talks to Neo. He's like, "Hey, what do you think?"
But it is
It's the red pill or the blue pill.
yeah, it is like that,
Yeah.
and it is essentially what it will be. If we're staying in this human form, essentially someone's going to figure out a way to put a helmet on you,
Yeah.
or put a fucking spike in the back of your head that like locks your central nervous system into this gigantic computer that starts sending signals to your brain and tricks your brain into thinking it's riding on a horse through the
Yeah.
fucking the Saudi Arabian desert. That's going to come.
Yeah.
It's just whether or not it's here yet. It's going to come. They're going to keep making things. If we don't blow each other up, there's going to be a cell phone that lets you see God. You're gonna like call God. And
Yeah.
God's going to be in front of you, hugging you, giving you love.
Isn't that what psychedelics are kind of like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that could be what we're trying to recreate. What we're trying to get to could be like a state that's similar to what exists already in nature. Like maybe they're interconnected in some sort of a way. Like maybe someone will figure out, maybe someone who is anti-drug will figure out a way to recreate psychedelic experiences using only technology that interfaces with your brain and turns all those chemicals on. But one of the things that they say, people that have been abducted, I had Travis Walton, this guy.
I've seen.
This guy
I've watched
with
it.
his
Yeah,
bobblehead.
Yeah, I've watched
He's
it.
very compelling in his descriptions of his encounter with these beings. But one of the things that he was saying was they were talking to him, but it wasn't with words. Like they were communicating with him, and he understood what they were saying, but it wasn't. They weren't saying things in a like, "Hey, Travis, why don't you relax? Because we're here from planet fucking whatever it is."
The information was flowing faster
Yes.
because it was like boom right away. What I think, you get it.
Yes, they were explaining things to him in some sort of a telepathic way.
Wow.
And it was mind-blowing to him. And I think that that's probably the future of communication. Just like you can transmit information from phone to phone, right? You can call people. They're nowhere near you, but you can talk to them. You can send a video to someone. It's going through the air. It's just data, right? It's just information.
Do you think Travis and Bob Lazar and all these guys that have extraordinary claim believe what they are telling you? I
Yes.
don't know if what they believe is true, but what do you think they believe what they are telling you in a way that they're not lying, they're telling the truth of what they're believing?
I can't tell for certain, but I believe Bob Lazar. I believe what he's saying is true. I believe he's telling me. Now, Bob, he had one moment where he was passing by a window and he said he saw something that was small and these people were standing over it, and he didn't know if it was an alien or whether it was some sort of a form that they were trying, like a doll or something that's supposed to represent the size of an alien or some sort of a model of an alien. But he remembers he looked briefly through a window and he saw something small. He didn't see it move around, didn't see it talk, so he doesn't know what he saw.
Yeah.
Because in his world, as he explained it, when he was working at Area 51 Site 4, that's where he worked. He said that it was very compartmentalized. And he's saying it was one of the problems with them trying to figure out, now this is assuming he's telling the truth.
Yeah, of course.
One of the problems they were trying to figure out was how to back engineer these devices, these ships. But the problem was they weren't allowed to communicate with other people outside of this very limited group of people that had access to these vehicles. And the people that were involved in the metallurgy were not allowed to communicate with the people that were involved in whatever the propulsion system was. They didn't understand what they were trying to decipher these things. But he said, and if you listen to the podcast that I did with him, that it didn't work because the scientific method requires multiple people to communicate and share ideas and explain, and they didn't do that.
You can't improve like that.
Right.
You need to share idea.
Right.
You can't do something and compartmentalize everything.
But my communication with him, I don't know if he was telling me the truth, but he didn't seem deceptive. And he's a brilliant guy.
It's clear he's clearly like borderline genius. You hear him speak, he's very educated.
And some of the things that he talked about came to fruition. Like one of the things was there was a concept of this thing called element 115, right?
Yeah.
Now that was not really proven until the 2000s, or somewhere in the 2000s. They used a particle collider and created this thing where it was a very unstable, very short-lived particle. But he was saying that wherever these beings are from, they have figured out a way to utilize a stable version of this element 115, and that's how they propel themselves. The things that he was describing were also exactly the same things that were experienced by Commander David Fravor, who was a guy who is a jet pilot.
I saw, yeah.
Yeah, and so he experienced this thing move in that same direction, that same way, where there was no visible propulsion system, but they tracked this thing going from 80,000 feet above sea level to 1 in 1 second. So that's the amount of time that it takes radar to track this. So it might have been less than a second. This thing traveled from 80,000 feet to 1,000.
No time.
To 1 feet.
It's like that thing with the hand. He says he measured the distance between the bone and the, when you get in, you put your hand in it and measure the distance between your bone and the...
the scanner.
Yeah.
Yes, the scanner.
There is a lot of things like this. And, like Zacharias Sitchin was... there's a lot of stuff that you can think of that how could they know that at the time? But it's
the Zacharias Sitchin stuff is interesting, right?
Yes.
That's all the Sumerian text. The Sumerian text is some fascinating stuff because it's all from 6,000 years ago. And by the way, Zacharias Sitchin, he's very controversial. There's even a website called sitchiniswrong.com, and it's basically scholars of ancient Sumerian who say that his translations are completely off. But even if his translations are off, there's still a lot of really confusing stuff about ancient Sumer. And one of the things is their depictions of the solar system. They had a depiction of the solar system 6,000 years ago that shows the sun in the center, and it shows all of the known planets in the outside, and they're relatively accurate in terms of the size.
Yeah, and how about the formation of the Earth? Tiamat, Marduk. I don't remember which one is what, but that's
the formation of the Earth.
That's the model that we use today.
Well, the scientists...
The asteroid belt,
that's
the model that we use today. How did he know that at that time?
I don't know how they knew that. When you're saying it's Earth 1 and Earth 2, and what that means is that there was an original version of Earth, and then Earth was hit by another planet at some point in the distant past, and that's what created the moon, and that's also what created the asteroid belt.
That goes on the different direction than the rest of the planet. Like they knew that too.
Well, there's also a thing called Bode's Law, and Bode's Law measures the distance between planets, and it's based on the mass of the planet, and they figure out, because of the mass of the planet, how far these planets are from each other. And one of the things that fucks that up is the asteroid belt. I think what I might be wrong about this, but the distance between Mars and Jupiter is one of the things that screws that up, and they think that's explained by the asteroid belt, that some collision created this asteroid belt and created all of the... there's something like 900,000 known near-Earth objects that were created by the impact of these planets.
One thing I believe, and I'm sure you're the same because you had a lot of these guys on your podcast, like Graham Hancock, Randall Carson, Jonathan E. West. there is clearly knowledge that we've lost
Yes.
in the past. Like this is for sure. Like just think about the Library of Alexandria.
Yes.
Man, imagine the knowledge that it wasn't there before it burned.
I know. Imagine.
Oh man,
Imagine.
People thinks we lost like 1 millennia, like just when it burns. That
Well,
of knowledge, medicine, botany,
Yes.
science. It's just crazy to think of. So sometimes when crazy stuff happen like that, like I just think that perhaps they had knowledge that there's knowledge that we lost. Like just think about the Greek fire. It's a weapon that was used in the naval battle, and it's really known about historian. You can research. They still don't know exactly how it works, but it was so destructive. It was like at the time it was like a secret weapon, like they didn't want to share, and it was known to be very efficient in naval battle.
I don't know what that is. I don't know about
Greek fire. If you go Greek fire, you'll get it. Boom. It was used in naval battle. So they used to throw fire, flames, and they used to people that are burning. They still burn in the water. So they think it was made with some kinds of petrol or they still don't know. They cannot recreate it. And it's clearly something that a lot of historians have talked about. It's called Greek fire. It's just an example that it's clear that it's a technology that we have lost.
Well, if you just look at the pyramids, the pyramids are a perfect example of technology lost. It's almost like the best example. Like those ancient civilizations almost letting everyone know, hey, there is information that we have that's so above and beyond what's expected of people from this era. Yeah. Because if you think about people that lived 2,500 BC, you don't think about someone that had the kind of proficiency to create something that when people don't understand, it's not just that the pyramids were big, but they were so perfectly designed that when they put all the stones, they reached the top. Like if anyone was off by even a half an inch at the bottom, as time went on, an inch here, an inch there, by the time they got to the top, it would be all fucked up. It wouldn't be perfect. But the pyramids were so amazingly perfect, and they were originally covered in smooth limestone. So smooth, polished limestone that would probably be insane to look at if you were staring at it from a distance, like this immense structure of 2,300,000 stones, some of them cut from quarries hundreds of miles away, all perfectly aligned and put together by these people that lived thousands and thousands of years ago.
Most scholars would say that they use a ramp, but if you think about it, like there's other scholars that would counter that by saying the construction of that ramp need to be in an angle that it could be so difficult to do that it will challenge the construction of the pyramid itself,
Well, again, it's like maybe they used a ramp. I don't know what they used.
We don't know, yeah.
But whatever they used, it's so amazingly precise. Yeah. That they were able to make this 2,300,000 stone structure. This still to this day. I haven't been, but I have friends that have gone. Like my friend Andrew Schultz just went. Danica Patrick, the race car driver, she told me she just went. People that I know that have been. My friend Eddie Bravo, when he went, he's like, you get there, you're like, what the fuck? Yeah. It's so big, apparently.
It's like an awakening.
Yes, that our idea of what it is, when you see it in a photograph, it looks incredible. But I guess I need to go because I guess when you see it in person, it's just like a complete reset. Like it recalibrates what people are capable of because you have to think like, man, this is 4,500 years old.
Think about Darren Couillou, Gobekli Tepe.
Yes,
man, it's
Gobekli Tepe's 10,000 years older.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's like 12,000 years old.
At least.
How do you conceive that? And sometimes what happens is that it gets infected by other civilization that passed there after that construction. So they think they are the one that built it. I think is it Pumapunku, the one that there's clearly two different technology. You see the stone are perfectly aligned with perfectly cut. Yes. Then you have other stone that are just on top, like it's like a butcher's job, and it's clearly not the same technology, the same people that built these two layers, you know?
Right.
So
Well,
it's
that was
just
also John Anthony West's concept of Egypt, that there's multiple eras, and that if you go deeper, like some of the stuff that they found when they dig deeper in the sand was a different construction method. It looked different designs, but still equally complex and fascinating. It's like there's probably many eras of human civilization, and there's probably been whatever it is, whether it's disease or some sort of a natural disaster or something that happened. Asteroidal impact was John Anthony or was Randall Carlson's and Graham Hancock's.
Yeah.
That's their theory. Is
12,000 years ago,
Yeah.
at the end of the Pleistocene era.
Yes.
But Homo sapien is date to 3,000 years old. You know, so imagine
How many?
3,000.
No, Homo sapiens.
Homo sapiens 3,000.
I think it's older than that. I think it's several hundred.
300,000. Sorry.
Oh, yes.
300,000.
Yes.
Sorry, my English.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Homo
right.
sapien is 300,000 in Morocco. That's just I'm 100% sure. That's why I read about this kind of stuff.
I think they think it's somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah.
Yeah. But so if you take that 300,000, 300,000 time for an evolution.
Right.
Why would it be only in the last 10,000 years that we would, you know,
invent such invent structures?
It's kind of strange. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it's also we're so different from all the other animals. Like we're the only animal that wears shoes. We're the only animal that wears clothes. We're the only animal that really manipulates its environment the way we do. I mean, other animals think, bees make beehives and shit like that, but they don't do anything even remotely interesting in comparison to what we're capable of doing and what we have done for thousands and thousands of years. And why? One of the things that Bob Lazar said that he was taught when he was at Area S4, at Area 51 S4, was that one of the things that they were telling him was that human beings are the product of accelerated evolution, and that these creatures occasionally come back to check upon our progress. And which is crazy.
Wow.
But that might be how it works throughout the universe, is that these beings that are very far advanced, they come back and they see these creatures that are pretty close, and they give them a little boost. They push them ahead a little bit, because otherwise it would take so long. And maybe we don't have the amount of time because of the fact that we're in this fucking shooting gallery of asteroids, that these things come down and whatever progress you make is wiped out by impacts or by supervolcanoes.
It's crazy, but it's not that crazy if you look at the belief of human being through evolution. Like in ancient Greek, they believe in different. They were believing in different gods. Like in different times, different civilization had different belief. Now some people believe Jesus walked on water. Which is fine too. That's their belief. If you believe that human was, the result of alien beings, it's another belief.
It's not.
Everybody believe in different things.
It's not that crazy if you think about what we're doing.
If you look at this is another point that Tim. I'm just giving Tim a shout out to give him credit for the stuff that I've been that I've been noodling on for the past, yesterday and today on private a lot of time, just sitting on a plane, looking out the window, going, man, where are all the aliens? And so the other thing he talks about is like if the history of human civilization was an 800-page book, so say 160,000 years that we've been like Homo sapiens with like the kinds of civilizations that, even pre-civilizations, right, nomadic peoples and so on, then each page of that book is, 250 years, I think I'm doing that maths right, or 200 years, 200 times 800, 160,000. If you can open that book to almost any page and the same shit's going on.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like all the way up
War.
until basically people are wandering around with pretty primitive tools. A few of them sort of figure out how to use fire. A few of them figure out like how to use metals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A few of them figure out how to ride horses and domesticate animals. But it's basically the same shit for like 790 pages of the 800-page book of the civilization of our species. And then just towards the end, it's like the page before the very end, like the United States gets settled, Australia gets settled, the Industrial Revolution happens. And then like on the final page, if each page is 250 years of an 800-page book, it's the last half of the page. Nuclear weapons, going into space, landing on the moon, the evolution of the internet, vehicles, cars, climate change, like all of this. And it's like the final few, like Facebook and all this shit, Axie Infinity and little coins and your VR and your Orgasmatron and everything is like the final 2 lines of an 800-page book. So, sometimes sometimes people will say to me, people always think that they're living through amazing times, Josh. You think you're living through an incredible time, but I'm sure people were saying that in like the 1820s. I'm sure everyone was like, oh my God, things are changing so fast. And I'm like, no, I'm going to call bullshit on that.
Yeah.
If an alien who knew nothing about anything took that 800-page book, they'd be like, page 233 is roughly the same as page 722.
Yeah.
But they'd get to the end and they'd be like, holy shit, what's going to happen next? Like, I want to read the sequel to this book. I want to read, what's 801?
Well, that's when they would keep an eye on us. When they dropped Fat Man and Little Boy on Japan, that's when UFO sightings started happening all over the globe. There's a giant uptick in UFO sightings. Was it Kenneth Arnold was one of the first, I believe? He's the guy who spotted, I think it's Kenneth Arnold, was the guy that spotted the flying saucers. He was the first one to discuss them as saucer-shaped discs, but they started seeing them all over the place. Like there was encounters in Washington, D.C., and there was encounters over nuclear bases, and where they said that they had shut codes down. And I don't know if there was alien life, and if there is alien life out there that's aware of us. I don't know if they would intervene, because we don't really do much when we find chimps. The scientific community, the intelligent scientific community doesn't try to interfere with their life and give them guns and this is how you start a fire.
Right, but chimps have noticed that we exist.
Yes.
So, like, even if they don't come, like, I'm not talking about, like, why haven't aliens come and visited us, like, in Independence Day? I just mean, like, when we train our telescopes on the sky, why isn't there any evidence of, like, little flickering radio waves coming from somewhere? But a possible explanation is the one that you say, which is we're looking for the wrong things. Like, we've only been emitting radio waves for a century, and we might be just about to end that and go into some virtual reality metaverse or something, and maybe we'll meet them all there. Maybe we'll unlock some door of the Zuckerberg multiverse and be like, oh, here are a whole bunch of pre-existing civilizations of aliens who already exist on this platform.
Well, also, if you think about the various planets that we know exist just in our solar system and the conditions that exist on these planets, there's not a lot of them that can support life. Like, they believe that Mars at one point in time had liquid water and they had an atmosphere, and they were probably hit with some sort of an asteroid that wiped out everything. But other than that, you've got Europa that has frozen water on the outside. I mean, that's close by,
though. But when you're talking about the scale of the universe, it's almost like talking about rolling the dice on the numbers of COVID in a population. Like, you don't need very high numbers before once you go to that size.
My point was the solar system that we exist in is very unusual. And, we obviously have a planet that exists in this Goldilocks range, but we also have an extremely large asteroid belt. And it's indicative of the initial impact between Earth 1 and Earth 2. Earth 1 was a planet that got hit by another planet.
Right.
And that's what created the moon, and they believe that also created the asteroid belt. And if there's a solar system out there that didn't have that sort of event, so didn't have to worry about these intermittent cataclysms where, that's one of the things that Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock have done some great research on, is the indication that at least one time that we know of while civilization existed, it was probably almost wiped out.
Right.
And it's somewhere in the Younger Dryas impact theory, somewhere around 11,000.
Is this when we were all like 5,000 people or something, or like 10? There were only
that was 70,000 years ago, and that was, I believe, was Indonesia. That was a volcano eruption. That there was a super volcano that erupted that wiped out almost everybody. And we got down to like 70,000 people or 7,000 people. They don't know exactly, but it was right about there. And then we pulled back up. We did a lot of fucking, and here we are today.
Thank God we didn't have an Orgasmatron. Otherwise, people would have been in their basements with sore thumbs.
The point is, if there's a planet out there that doesn't have that issue, And let's imagine, because I don't know what the reality is when it comes to like ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia, or I mean these incredible structures that these people built, where unfortunately because of the burning of the Library of Alexandria, we don't have the real records of how they did it or how they accomplished it or who they were, or even really how long ago they really made it. We know that some of them, they've done carbon dating on some of the stuff, and they know it's at least 2,500 BC, but there's some indications that some of it might be far, far older than that. So let's imagine that there was some sort of a civilization 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago that was very advanced and was allowed to advance without any interruption, without nuclear war, without solar flares, without asteroid impacts or supervolcanoes. Maybe they lived in a much more stable climate, and they got to a place where they're 1,000,000 years more advanced than us. 1,000,000 years. Imagine what the fuck we're going to be in 1,000,000 years.
I mean, I can't even imagine what we're going to be in 100 years.
So
and then
if
take
that's
1,000
the case,
years, 10,000, 100,000.
Yeah, if that's the case, like if they were out there and they were watching us, they'd probably just make sure we don't blow ourselves up.
Yeah,
Like,
or
just-
not.
I think they would
You
probably
reckon they're
rather,
benevolent?
Well, if you got to think that, I don't know if it's benevolent or malevolent. Like if you think about what a scientist is, it's someone who wants to observe but sometimes protect. You know, like we protect endangered species. Activists get together and they say, hey, you know, there's only a few of these birds left. We have to do whatever we can to preserve them. If they have that same mentality about the human race, I think they would have a pretty standoffish attitude and just sort of wait for us to figure it out. And especially if they look at the acceleration of our innovation and this exponential acceleration of technology. And
I can't remember if it was like Michio Kaku or Neil deGrasse Tyson or one of those like great science guys who was saying like maybe any civilization that would be advanced enough to be able to reach out to us or to be noticed by us would also have to be the kind of civilization that would not be a predatory colonizing species, because in that case it would have devoured itself with internal squabbles, you know, before
Klingons.
then. You basically have to reach a certain level of spiritual and psychological wisdom and self-awareness and compassion in order to sustain yourself over the course of, you know, so far we've had a couple of hundred years since the Industrial Revolution, and it's only been less than a century that we've had nukes. We've had the ability to actually do some serious damage on a global scale. We're just kids. We are toddlers with an AR-15 right now. I mean, we don't know what we're doing, and we're going to have to grow up into adults, and we're going to, you know, have a grown-up civilization.
They go out into the desert, and they have some sort of a secret frequency. He didn't want to discuss it, that they can push out. They can send out the secret frequency, and it'll call them in, and that other people have done it simply by willing them in.
Yeah, that's what I did.
So sitting there and putting out this message that you're trying to communicate with them, and then eventually they show up.
Yeah, I can't speak to technologically assisted psionics and all that kind of stuff, but do you want to hear my UFO story? Okay. So,
first of all, where did you come up with this idea on your own, or did you hear about people doing this?
No, I heard of it from someone who's a quite polarizing figure in the UFO community. I know you've spoken to him, Dr. Stephen Greer. But
polarizing people are right sometimes.
He's right on this.
Yeah, they could be right on a lot of
things. He's right on this, and you know, I know that a lot of people have issues with Greer, but he was actually my intro into the UFO subject. So I'll tell you the story. Sorry about my throat. Let me just take a sip of water, actually.
No worries.
So this was...
How did he find out about it?
It's a good question. He had a near-death experience, I believe, and from that was actually apparently communicated to and shown things that when he came out of that experience, he became a samadhi type, you know, teacher. And,
of course.
You know, got profoundly interested in
That's a great origin story.
Brilliant origin story. My origin story was I was really bored during COVID. No, so like honestly though, it was actually in 2019 that I had these experiences. And I do think that it's very important to lay a bit of foundational groundwork, because I think a lot of people will recognize this as well. And it's something that you mentioned with Bigfoot being in a high-stress environment in the forest. Maybe that changes your perception. And I think that there's a degree of trauma and a degree of intense emotional moments that can bring about paranormal experiences. I don't know why, but it does seem to be something that a lot of people relate to. Yes, I was in a very dark time. Yes, I was having a very traumatic time. Or yes, I was going through something. And then this happened. And so for me, I was in my third year of university and struggling. Just had a whole mix of personal issues going on. So I ended up kind of dropping out before I finished, and was just in a really bad rut. And my dad was worried about me, and he said, "Look, I'm out in." This is a bit of a long story, but it's important to lay this foundation, I think, before I talk about what I actually experienced, because it plays in. My dad was worried. He was out in France at the time, and he said, "Look, do you want to come out and stay at this place with me and just, kind of relax and bring yourself back to normal?" I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I came out, and he was like, "I've got these books that I've been reading. I think they'd be really beneficial for you. You should read them." And I was like, "Okay, I don't see how a book's going to change."
Does he
anything.
often recommend books?
Not massively, no. In fact, no. This was the only time he recommended books, which is interesting. And they were a series of books called Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. Have you ever heard of them?
No.
Okay, so it's interesting. It kind of ties into, I suppose, the channeled works, things that people believe they received.
Oh, wait a minute. I have heard of this. Yes.
He's quite well known. He's quite well known. He, was a radio DJ, broke his neck in a car accident, became homeless, finally managed to get back on his feet, but was still struggling, wrote an angry letter to God, and then apparently woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and was having voices literally telling him to write things down. And so he wrote all of this down, and this became Conversations with God. It's literally a dialogue of him asking questions and him receiving answers, which he interpreted as from God. Now, that is intense, and I'm definitely not here to say this is a Bible and everyone should read it. However, it was incredibly impactful for me at that time. The things that I was reading about, it was a very different idea of God, universal consciousness leaning towards more than some weird patriarchal cloud living figure that just never made sense to me. So it got me in, and I was reading it, and it helped tremendously, weirdly enough, which I didn't expect. And that put me on a path towards researching metaphysics and philosophy and science and consciousness, and that's where it really started for me. But then a couple years down the line, I found myself in another depression, in a sense, because I felt like I'd accumulated a lot of information about various different topics that I thought were these big questions and big answers and big esoteric things. And I just got to a point where I was like, none of this is actually helping me in my life. In fact, I'm actually feeling fucking worse for looking into all of this thing. I don't know how this is going to benefit me. So I was sitting on my bed one night, and I guess you could call it a prayer. I just sat on my bed and said out loud to the universe, I need something that validates all of this. If I'm meant to be looking into these big picture questions about the universe and consciousness, if there's something tangible here, I need to know, and I want evidence, and I'm ready for it. So give me it. I want that. And then a week later, my best friend at the time, he was like, "Hey, I was watching this documentary. You've got to check it out. It's called Unacknowledged by this guy called Dr. Stephen Greer." And this is my first introduction to the UFO subject. So I was like, okay, cool. Sit down and watch that. Very good documentary. All of these different, high-level officers and missile launch guys talking about UFOs. It got me in. And then near the end of that is when he brings up this concept of CE5, initiating contact with these. You can actually have your own experiences by getting into a particular meditative state. If I hadn't been making that request on my bed the week prior, I probably just would have watched that documentary and gone about my life. But it felt like a very strong message to me personally, because I've been asking for something to validate these ideas around consciousness. Now there's a guy saying, yeah, you can actually have an experience by going out and attempting to, ask for one.
So talk me through the process of actually doing that.
So he has...
Did you get it on the first try?
No.
How many times did you try?
It was a weird gradual thing where things were happening in the sky that were enough to keep me going out, but not enough for me to be like, okay, this is legit.
So how many times did you go out before it worked?
Before I saw what I really, really saw, probably about a month of going out.
Damn, that's commitment.
But I was seeing things, but they weren't. It was kind of just enough to make me like, okay.
What were you seeing?
Lots of what the contact community call flash bulbs, flashes of light in the night sky in a void of space repeatedly without any discernible object attached to it. Just one flash, and then send a thought, another flash, send a thought, another flash. And this happened multiple times. I've been someone who watches the night sky all my life. I'm used to seeing satellites. I know what iridium flares are.
For?
Maybe an hour, 2 hours,
And so you sit down. Are you seated?
No, I'd usually be standing with my neck craned to the sky, but I would be...
Why don't you get a lounge chair?
I know.
Meditative.
I know. I don't know. I don't think about things properly sometimes when I do them.
Just lay down on the ground.
Just lay on the grass,
Don't
right?
you get a better view of the sky?
Yeah, but it's cold in England, and it was wet, mildewy on the floor.
It
was not.
Get a tarp.
Yeah.
Bring a tarp.
But I was essentially, because of, again, being asking the universe for something. The universe seemed to be giving me some sort of response. It kind of lit a fire up under me, and I started going outside. And honestly, a lot of people, like even Greer, has this incredibly, complicated method using samadhi and doing various things. I didn't do any of that. I just breathed in through the nose and out through the mouth until I felt very calm, and then began to very clearly model my thoughts around the concept of I want something to respond to me, and then I would essentially visualize that was emanating from me, that these thoughts were emanating from me. And it didn't take very long before I'd have flashes of light in the sky that just seemed weird because I've never seen anything like that, or an incredible influx of what look and behave like satellites, but just at an incredibly high level, where it's just like, what's going on here? And it just felt like a kind of step-by-step progression until in August of 2019, I had 4 incredibly vivid and real experiences with orange orbs of light. Really profound.
What was that? What happened?
So I was outside. At this point, it become my routine. It was in the summer of August, and it was relatively warm, so I was out doing this quite a lot, seeing little flashes, seeing things in the sky, trying to figure out what exactly it was that I was seeing. And I was standing at the back of my garden looking towards my house, night sky, crystal clear. And I saw at the beginning a flash of light in the corner of the sky. So I looked over and I saw this flash, another flash, another flash, and it was just blinking, but it was static in space. And then it started moving down. Every time it blinked, it would move further down. And I was observing this. And then it settled above 2 stars and kind of created the apex of a triangle. And it was just flashing above these 2 stars. And I was watching this for a while. And it happened for long enough where I just decided, all right, thank you, whatever you are. I'm just going to keep panning around the sky here and looking around. And as I panned my head, I saw that there was a cloud, but I didn't really look at it. And I turn around here, come back, and I see this cloud again. And this time I really look at it. And this cloud, Joe, had, so strange, it's like a dark cloud, but when you stared at it, it had a staticky appearance. It's very hard to describe other than imagine a light overlay of TV static. There was particles, it was agitated, it was shimmering, it was something, not a cloud, like certainly not anything I've ever seen in my life. And if we pretend this microphone is my house and this cloud is here, it's drifting this way. So eventually it's going to drift past my house and go this way, at least according to its natural trajectory. It gets to my house and it does a right angle turn and it starts coming towards me. So eventually it's going to be above my head, this cloud-like formation.
A cloud does a right angle turn in the sky.
Abrupt, as in 90 degrees. It's going like this, and now it's going like this towards you. High up in the sky, but it's now in my path. Complete 90-degree shift from its trajectory. And I saw it, like a jarring, bloop, now it's going this way. Okay, so at this point, I'm rooted in place. I'm not really scared, but I'm shocked at the fact that this thing did what it just did. And I'm watching as it's coming closer and closer, towards where I'm going to be. Eventually, it's directly above my head. It sounds so crazy. And, Terence McKenna said something like this. He was like, if you tell the unvarnished truth about a UFO experience, you'll be taken for a fool. It's like, it's true. If you just tell people what really happened. But this is what really happened. So this cloud comes above my head. As it's directly above my head, this cloud like sucked into itself as if there was a central vacuum, a central point where it just got sucked into itself. And it revealed a triangle formation of about 25, maybe 30 orange orbs of light in a triangle. And this triangle, basically the cloud went, triangle was revealed, it kept moving. I had to turn around and watch as it went off in this direction. And as I was watching it, I could see that some of these orbs were actually swapping position in this formation. And that was the first time I saw them. I saw them 3 other occasions, all within the space of a month after this. Weirdly enough, I woke up the next day, and this is the only element of the story, as crazy as the whole thing sounds, is the only element that makes me personally uncomfortable. I was getting out of the shower, and as I was drying myself off, immediately noticed where this tattoo is now. There was a triangle mark of three red marks, one here, one here, one here. Very vivid, like the
And you covered it up with a tattoo?
Well, it faded. It
Did
faded
you take any
over
pictures
time.
of it?
I have taken pictures of it. Yeah.
Is it clear?
Yes.
Can I see it?
I can try and find them. Yeah, I haven't got my internet on right now. Jamie, if you go onto my X account and just type in J. Anderson marks on arm, maybe that will come up. I'm sorry, I should have really sent that ahead of time, but I do have images online. People have seen them, and I've discussed it many times.
Did it look like a wound? Did
this
it
is
look
the thing.
like a tattoo?
So 3 red marks, no bump, no scab, no itching, no feeling of discomfort. There was a slight shine to them, as if it was almost like a healed over burn, and this was very vivid. It didn't dissipate for over a year. It was on my arm for about a year before it faded away, eventually faded away, and then I got Hermes Trismegistus tattooed on my arm. But weirdly enough, I got this tattoo and then got invited to Egypt. But yeah, I had these experiences. I had another experience where they came down and hovered above my house.
Can I ask you this? So these orbs,
Yeah. There you go.
Wow.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks for that.
That is
weird.
It looks like you burned 3 cigarettes on your arm.
That's what some arsehole online definitely claimed, but I didn't.
Well, that's what I would say too if I was an asshole online.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this I noticed it immediately. I'm
weird.
not particularly comfortable with it. I don't know what it really means. I'm a bit of an idiot, Joe, because I should have gone to a dermatologist. I should have actually had someone
You got
look at
branded, but like cattle, son.
Well, that's
They
kind of
branded
what
you.
I think. And at the same time,
let's keep an eye on this one.
Can I even be mad at them? I was like, show me, give me evidence. I want to sign. Well, fuck it, fine then.
Right.
There you go, dude.
I would say whatever that is on your arm, who knows? Maybe a dermatologist could explain it. It's just a coincidence. But the actual thing itself is far more interesting to me. And because one of the things that people always say is, if they were out there, what wouldn't we see them? Like, God, if they could come here from another dimension, or if they can come here from another planet or another solar system, don't you think they could probably hide? Like, we're pretty good at hiding. Like, don't you think we have technology right now, like the stealth bomber stuff, that diminishes the radar signal?
Exactly.
Like, you can't pick them up on radar. So why would it be impossible to somehow or another manipulate your visual field, project what looks like clouds on the outside? We know that we can do stuff like that with plasma. Like they have these plasma things that can spin in the sky.
Absolutely.
And it's weird. They can make objects out of them.
I wonder if that was plasma. I actually do wonder if this was a form of self-organizing plasma, because that's definitely something that people have looked into quite extensively.
Maybe plasma has intelligence.
Yes.
There's some, yeah.
Yes, and perhaps these are a form of individuated plasmic intelligences that can interact